Peace and blessings to the 12 tribes of Israel. Today I'm going to deal with a reaction video called Led by Children Part 2. Led by Children Part 2. So this is a lady who has a daughter who has changed gender to a boy, and she's explaining the problems that she's been having which led up to this situation.
And there was lots of other issues going on, like wetting himself during the day a lot, bedwetting, which we still have, so I went to seek the advice of the GP, and at first she said, I'm going to check all the physical things, so that's what they did, and then she said, come back, and she said, I know nothing about this, so please let me go away and speak to the senior doctors. Came back on the Monday, and she said, I'm going to refer you to the Tavistock, because she said, we believe there are gender identity issues here.
Which is an amazing
place. That you've had that support.
The Tavistock.
Absolutely,
it really is.
Yeah.
Claire, you...
There's so many discourses in this video. She said the child, the boy, I'm even getting confused myself. The girl that is now a boy was wetting the bed. I don't know what that has to do with anything. And then she said on the Christmas list, she wanted a willy, right? Which is crazy. Then she said she went to a doctor, then the doctor consulted senior doctors, and they said there are gender identity issues. So here's when the problems begin. Because now you go to the doctor now, and now the doctor now is saying, oh, I think you should have been born a boy. And I think that she needs to be a boy. So here's where the problem begins now. Because you went to the doctor. You see, again, it's the culture that is dictating it. Nobody's following the Bible. Nobody cares. Everybody is going by what culture dictates. Culture basically is people's fleshly, despicable minds. So now this woman, by the way, she's not said anything about the father, right? Where is the father, by the way? The father's not been talked about at all. So he's not in the picture. We know that a lot of these, I don't know if this woman's married or not, but a lot of these circumstances where people are married, we know that the woman walks away with the children and she stops the man from seeing the children. And while he's away from the children, who knows what she's doing with the children?
You feel totally opposite, don't you? You feel that it's kind of dangerous to give children so much choice.
I'm a mum of 4, okay? I love, and I think what you've said is amazing. And I think the support you've given your child, Dexter, is second to none. And that's what parents do. And that's what we hope all parents would do. However, I do think, though, especially given what's happened at the Tavistock, 5 senior clinicians have resigned over the past couple of months, actually, which is funded by the NHS because they are deeply concerned about the treatment of transgender children, especially under the age of 14, 16. And I think by giving your child as much freedom to express what they feel their gender should or ought to be, I think could be harmful, and I think in some cases it could be seen as abdicating your parental responsibility to give your child that power to identify whichever gender they perceive themselves to be.
But then the alternative, Claire, is, which you don't obviously know because you don't live it firsthand, is that I had an incredibly miserable daughter. When I look back, every picture that I have of Talia, every home video I have, that was an incredibly miserable child. I now have a very, very happy 8.5-year-old son.
So now you have a sane woman coming on, and she's now saying it's dangerous to give your child all this choice. And then you have the mother who has given her child so much choice and, thinks, well, I think the children should lead. Now she's saying, oh, She was very miserable. If you see pictures of her being miserable, she was so miserable. So you're going to give your child, so if your child is miserable, you're going to give your child exactly what they want because they're so miserable. Come on. So if your child wants sweets every day and they're very miserable, are you going to give them sweets every day? If they want sweets for dinner, are you going to give them sweets for dinner? If your child wants to jump off a roof, are you going to allow your child to jump off a roof? Come on, you are the parent. You have that control because you're a grown human being, right? You've been given the responsibility of being their mother. So therefore, you need to act like a mother, right? And this is the danger when you brothers leave your children in the hands of the mother, because you don't know what the hell she's doing with the children. You don't know.
And I know you won't understand it.
It's not for me to understand, but I hope that continues.
Absolutely.
But the evidence is there to support. The scientific evidence is sometimes there to support.
Absolutely.
That
But
transitioning from such an early age, if they start getting these hormones, they're irreversible.
yeah, but stop right there. Everybody transitions in a different way. So nobody is suggesting that every single child that goes through that system will transition, will have hormones.
Every single case, when it comes down to a transgender child, a transgender adult, is completely different. And everyone's got their own story. But Maïna, I do need to ask you the question, because I know there'll be a lot of viewers at home that will be thinking this. What happens if Dexter grows up, gets to about 14, 15 and goes, Mum, why have you let me do this?
So the lady is, the same voice comes on and she's saying to the mother, she's saying, oh, I have children myself. I've got 4. And the clinic that you went to, or the place that you went to, you got to be very, very careful, because they don't know, because this particular place does not know how to handle these type of issues, right? So you got to be very, very careful. Not everybody is trained adequately in these type of issues, so therefore you got to be very, very careful. Her response is, well, you don't know my child, you just don't know. If she's so happy now, you just don't understand. It's like, bearing in mind this is a small child.
We do this. Why have you let me do
Well,
this?
we talk very openly with Dexter every now and again, so it's an open conversation in our house. If ever you want to go back to living as the gender that you were born as, that's absolutely fine. We'll transition. Only a few weeks ago, he got very upset, said that he liked sometimes girls' things. We went to a shop and we bought 2 girls' outfits that he chose. He was very embarrassed about it. And then at the weekends, I lay out a set of boys' clothes and a set of girls' clothes, and he chooses. And for 2 weekends on a trot, he chose the girls' clothes. He hasn't done that since. Listen, the easiest thing in the world for me is if my son were to say, actually, Mum, I am a girl.
Of course.
Because
Of course.
then
Yeah.
that's...
Maïna, do you have other children?
Yeah, I have another daughter.
Did you lay out clothes, different styles of clothes for your daughter?
My daughter was never dressed as a girly girl. I always allowed her to, from as early age as she was very into picking her own things from an early age. So
the
again,
same as Dexter then?
Yeah, but she doesn't have gender identity issues, and she doesn't, and this is not the same. She's very comfortable in her own skin as a female.
And what about schooling for Dexter? Does Dexter present as a...
You see, this is another reason why guys these days are going, do you know what? I'm not even getting married. I'm not even having children. Now, I believe that you should get married and you should believe in the Lord to bless you with a good woman. I still believe that you should do that, but you should choose a woman outside of your pool, right? So you go outside of your region or your town or city, or go outside of the country to find yourself a woman, right? And this is the reason, because, okay, you're in a marriage. We know that 50% up to 70% of marriages, they end up making it. So who ends up with the custody of the children? It's normally the woman. So the children are with the woman probably 80%, if not 90% of the time, right? They're with you only for a small percentage of the time, if ever, right? If she allows you to see your children. Now, you don't know how she's raising your children. You may not be happy with your boy being raised like a girl or your girl being raised like a boy. What say do you have to that? No say whatsoever, because if you go to the courts and say, well, I'm not happy with the way she's raising my children, what's the courts going to say? They're not going to say anything. They're going to go, oh, well, the child has gender issues. That's why she's raising the child that way. Because they're going along with the culture. And the culture dictates that when it comes to that kind of thing, you have to go along with the confusion.
As a boy, fully.
Okay.
I mean, you'd
And
never
how's that, Mayana? How's the school and his class friends been?
So we've always had phenomenal amounts of support. Very, very minimal negative comments towards this. So we're really lucky, and
Got a
I
lot
feel.
of comments coming today. Actually,
And since I came on the programme last time with Dexter, I actually recognised the need to support other families, and I've since set up a support group called Acceptance UK. And I support every month. We have a meet-up, and I'm currently supporting over 50 families.
So is it the families you're supporting or the children?
And both. They both come. We all come together. It's very informal, coffee and chat. We play board games. We get together.
Helping them through what is, for a lot of families, very different situation.
And everybody's journey is different.
We've had so many comments, Mara, as you can imagine. Owen says, surely the point of parenting is to create a safe and loving environment for children to grow up in. That's all Charlize Theron is doing. Her child will grow up knowing they have unconditional love and support. Why is that
Absolutely.
so awful?
It's not.
Emma says, my 7-year-old can't decide what cereal to have for breakfast or what colour top to wear, let alone making a life-changing decision about
But
her
it's
gender.
not life-changing. I think this is the thing we need to be very clear about. I'm not saying my son is transgender. Transgender is a word that is easy for everybody to identify with. I have a child that has gender identity dysphoria, if you like, or has had.
Mayana, I mean,
Now, I'm not making this video to laugh at anybody or to poke fun or to humiliate anybody. I mean, this stuff is publicly available anyway, right? But the reason why I put this clip here is purely for edification purposes, for those saints that love the Lord. Now, you got to be very, very, very careful who you have children with, because who you have children with could affect the lives of those children, right? So if you marry someone out of blind lust, you say, well, I just want to get married because I'm just horny. And then you just get with someone that you have a lust-filled relationship with someone, a very sexual relationship, and then you just get married and say, well, we're married now. And then you start having children, and then in a couple years after that, you two split up. You know, she might walk away and say, I don't know, he's a toxic relationship, it's an abusive relationship, he was controlling, he was very insecure. Oh, I've always, this relationship has always been abusive, right? She walks away being the survivor, right? And she walks away with your children. Now, she feels that she has a right to do whatever the hell she wants to do with your children, because the courts tell her that you do have the right to do whatever you want to do with those children. You could stop him from seeing them. You could stop him completely. You can give him a little bit of access. You know, the courts say, oh, you're the mother, so you should have the children all the time, and he should pay you, right? You should see the children 80, 90%, 100% of the time. It's all down to you, love. You can do whatever you want, right? So if you want to have the children 100% of the time, 90 or 80% of the time, it's up to you. You could do whatever you want, right? Even with a court order, you could do whatever you want. It's up to you, love. You could do whatever you want, right? So meanwhile, you're raising the children, running the children into the ground because you weren't meant to be running children like that without a husband. He's now being sidelined, and he's now thinking, what's she getting up to with them kids? Now, let's bring in the scriptures, because it's one thing saying this and saying that, but the Bible says that you got to prove all things and hold fast to what is good, right? You got to be able to, whatever is being said, you must be able to prove it in the scripture. And the Bible says that we do things via the oracles of God, and we got to prove our cause. Right, okay. So let's go to Sirah 16, and we're going to read from 1 to 3. Here, ready, go. Desire not a multitude of unprofitable children, neither delight in ungodly sons. Though thy multiply, reduce not in them, except the fear of the Lord be with them. Trust not thou in their life, neither respect their multitude, for one that is just is better than 1,000, and better it is to die without children than to have them that are ungodly. So let's go back up to 1. Desire not a multitude of unprofitable children. We do not desire a bunch of unprofitable children. That's why brothers don't want to have children anymore. That's why people in general don't want to have children anymore, because there's too many outside attacks to children, right? Because you may not teach them stuff in the home that you don't want them to hear, but the school is going to teach them, or the media is going to teach them, or social media is going to teach them, or their peers are going to teach them, or their teacher is going to teach them those things that you don't want them to hear because they're too young. So it says, desire not a multitude of unprofitable children. That's why a lot of people don't want to have children anymore. Neither delight in ungodly sons. Don't delight in an ungodly son, right? Though thy multiply, rejoice not in them, except the fear of the Lord be with them. So you only children that you need really to be happy with or to be proud of are the children that have the fear of the Lord in them. Why? Because with the fear of the Lord in them, they are going to do the right thing, or at least they're going to live their life sifting it through the laws of God or the oracles of God. Trust not thou in their life, neither respect their multitude, for one that is just is better than 1,000, and better it is to die without children than to have them that are ungodly. So the Most High is saying it's best to not have children. If the children that you're going to have are going to be ungodly, are going to be manipulated by the media, by culture, by evil people to be wicked, it's best not to have them, right? That's what's in the Bible, right? So let's now go to Surah 30, 1-5. And for those of you so-called Christians that don't believe, I don't believe in that Bible that you're reading, I don't believe in it, it's because you don't study, you don't care about the Bible, because you hate God, you hate Christ, and you hate the Bible. That's why you don't like the Apocrypha, because you don't even read the 66 books anyway. Anyhow, let's go into Surah 30. Surah 30, reading from 1-5. He that loveth his son calls it him to feel the rod, that he may have joy of him in the end. Let's read again. He that loveth his son calls it him to feel the rod, that he may have joy of him in the end. He that chastises his son shall have joy in him, and shall rejoice of him among his acquaintances. So the Bible is saying that if you have a son, he needs to feel the rod, right? It means exactly what it means. He needs to be hit. He that teacheth his son grieveth the enemy, and before his friends he shall rejoice of him. So if you teach your son the words of God, if you teach your son the laws of God, morality, his son grieveth the enemy. The enemy can't. There's no room for the enemy to come in. And before his friends he shall rejoice of him. Though his father die, yet he is as though he were not dead. Right? Because the Bible says, train a child so that when he gets old, he would not depart of it. What you put into your child now, when your child is a child, he will not depart of it when he's an adult. But if you kind of adopt the stance of, okay, well, he leads the way. If he doesn't like it, or if she doesn't like it, I can't stop them because their happiness means more than anything else. I have to depend on them leading the way to tell me what's wrong and what they like and what they don't like. I mean, you're pathetic. Really, you're pathetic as a parent, because all you're doing is just you encouraging your child to grow up to be a demon. So let's read 3 again. He that teacheth his son grieveth the enemy, and before his friends he shall rejoice of him. Because when you have a well brought up child and a well behaved child into adulthood, everybody wants that person, because they don't have the issues that most children who grew up into adulthood have. Though his father die, yet he as though he were not dead. For he had left one behind him that is like himself, because he imparted his knowledge, his wisdom into his child, and he trained his child from a young age into adulthood. 5. While he lived, he saw and rejoiced in him. And when he died, he was not sorrowful. Why? Because his father passed the knowledge to him, the son. You see, the knowledge was passed down to the son. He had a good father, a father that raised him properly. You see? So when he died, he wasn't very sorrowful because, everything was given to his son unto death. So he was not sorrowful. The son wasn't sorrowful. So when the father dies, the son effectively becomes the father because his father imparted all the wisdom in him. So he effectively becomes his father, right? Because there's good wisdom that was transferred, and you could transfer that to a daughter and her mother, because the older women are supposed to teach the younger women. A mother is supposed to teach her daughter how to be a woman, the same way a father is supposed to be teaching his son how to be a man. You see, it's a transfer of knowledge. It's the same thing the other way around, right? When the mother dies, she passes the knowledge down to her daughter, so her daughter effectively becomes her, right? She passes the righteousness down to her daughter. She raises her daughter, first of all, to be a good woman, upstanding woman, a righteous woman, and then she passes that wisdom down so that child now can take over when she's not around. You see? Now, in terms of this video, this is an example of what's going to continue to happen, because there's so much confusion around gender, so much confusion around sex, sexuality, so much confusion about everything, gender roles, and you could go down the list of confusion. That all of this is being entertained and has become the norm in culture today, and unfortunately this is how it's going to be until Christ returns. It's going to get worse and worse and worse. So brothers and sisters, I hope you were edified. Shalom.